Hello, everyone. Welcome to Petals Bloom. I am Kimberly Garth, and I am the founder of Petals Bloom, which was initially established in 2019 while I was single. And so I wrote several articles before I got married, and I started publishing, I believe, the first week of January in 2019. And then I got married in March of that same year. So now, the reason that I'm so passionate about Petals Bloom and what it offers to the primarily never been married single woman is because, well, I was single for quite a long time, and I got married late in life. And beside that, I discipled and coached over 100 women. I lived with lots of single women, shared numerous hotel rooms with single women traveling all over the world. So I think I have a lot of information about singleness and also relationships, and also being around um young men. And of course I'm married to a man now, so I get extra insight now. And so I feel like it's so important to be able to share this information. And beside all of that, I was discipled or by a, well, a lot of mature, strong Christian women have influenced me and invested in my life in real life, not only through books. And I know that some of you all may not have that. So what I'm doing now is just passing down some of the wisdom that I have gotten from these wonderful women of God who may not have a platform like I have, but nevertheless, they have been instrumental in helping a lot of women grow in their walk with the Lord. So I'm very blessed to be able to glean from so many wonderful women. Hi, Roxanne. Welcome. And be able to pass it on to others. And of course, the word of God has been central. Like when I was single, I was inspired by someone who was big on memorizing scripture. And I used to, oh yeah, so happy to catch this live on time. Yeah, man, Roxanne, I'm happy too. It's always good to have you. And yes, um, so in general, the word of God is very dear to my heart. So I said when I was single, I began to memorize like large chunks of scripture, which helped me to, just appreciate um, my relationship with Jesus Christ and what he did, what he has done for me, what he is doing in and through my life. And that just impacts everything that I believe in, everything I do, hopefully. So, you know, everything just comes together in what I put forth as my content, or either on my articles, which you can check out on www.petalsbloom.com, through my newsletters, which you can subscribe to if you haven't already. And I have a link in the description. The link is to get a freebie called the Irresistible Godly Woman Checklist. And that list comprises qualities that I think generally is good for a Christian woman to develop in. And a lot of men really are looking forward to having a woman with those qualities. And when I was in Jamaica recently, and I had got this lovely compliment indirectly from this young man. So this young man told my husband that he wants to know the exact prayers my husband prayed to get a woman like me. I was like, oh, what a sweet compliment. So I am passing these things on to you so that you will not only get married, because there are so many people, and it really is kind of easy to get married, but the problem is staying married. And I heard some statistics over the weekend. Yeah, I think Friday, Valentine's Day, that so many persons are not wanting to get married. People are not getting married. And the ones who have gotten married within about, I think they said 5 years, like so many persons are getting divorced, and it's not only non-believers. Hey Mary, welcome, pleasant night. And so I don't want people just to get married for getting married sake. I want persons to trust God and get married with yeah, those are very sad statistics. I think I'll probably try to share it, get it, the exact numbers, and maybe share it at some point in time, either in the newsletters or one of these lives or on a blog post. Yeah, so my desire is that not only will you get married, but you'll have a Christ-centered, thriving, enjoyable marriage. And marriage is not necessarily easy, or I mean, it's enjoyable sometimes, not all the time, but it is good. And if God created it, God is the one who established the covenant of marriage. He always does a good work. And it is still relevant, it's still important. It is still important for the foundation. Healthy marriages are important for the well-being of the entire society. So look, my husband giving me some chats there. Who is a pretty lady on the screen? I'm yours, babe. I'm yours. Yes. Excuse me. Yes, I'm very passionate about marriage. Although singleness is good too, because this life is very short. So if you were to never get married, that is okay as well. But I do believe that more Christians, single Christian men and women, want to be married rather than want to remain single, and that I believe that desire was from put in there, and from Genesis, we can see that the covenant of marriage was there from very, very early on. And that is the reason why genuinely, most of us would desire to be married. There are few persons who may not, but I'm more or less thinking that the persons who subscribe to me, maybe 98%, are interested in getting married. And that is why I have also started to talk more about it, because those articles and videos are what people are wanting. And, it's just produced what people want. And I'm very happy because, as I said, marriages are important. They are the bedrock to society, and Christian marriages need to be what it should be, glorifying God. So, welcome, everyone. I think, Mary, I'm not too sure if I saw you from before, but welcome. It's good having you. And today's talk is on drum roll. How to, the four, not four. Let me just not say four because I might end up saying some more. At least four traits that you need to avoid if you want to have a great marriage in the future. Because, of course, this podcast, these YouTube lives are primarily for single Christian women, but I know we have married women who listening, and we have men who are listening. And shout out to the men who listen. Yeah, you're very welcome. So, as I mentioned in the description, the longer you stay single, it's just easy to develop certain traits that can that will not augur well for getting married or having a good marriage. And that's the fact. And I was single for quite a while. And believe me, I did develop some of these. And so I'm here to just warn you and to give you insights into some of the things that you might need to start addressing from now if you plan to, one, attract a good man, keep him interested until marriage, and even after marriage, still have a blossoming marriage. Okay, so I'm all about you. I am for you, ladies. So I'm going to spill it because I want you to learn from my own mistakes. All right. So as I mentioned, you will benefit. if you've been single for a while, their experiences and skills and expertise and wisdom that you would have developed through the years, which will be beneficial to your husband. So before I got married, I lived on my own since I was in my early 20s, I believe. Yeah, early 20s. So I knew how to manage a house, manage my finances, to cook. I mean, I had a lot of things going for me because I just manage my life and I manage it fairly well, very organized in many ways, which would have been a blessing to my husband and to us as a couple. However, let me just mention a few as I talk about it. It's qualities that I see in others and I have seen in myself as well. And I am not there as yet. Some things I am still working on, and it might be a work in progress until death do us part, John and I. But it's good to know the issues that you're working on. So the first one is you need to avoid being controlling. No one necessarily wants to be in living with a controlling woman. So at this point in time, you probably make your own money, you run your own life. I mean, your house is set up in exactly the way you want, especially if you live alone. So what would happen when a man enters that picture? So for a very unhappy marriage, you can demand that he begins to adapt to your wonderful, perfect ways. After all, your ways have been tweaked over years and you have a level of efficiency about you. Okay. And you're yielding good results in your life. At least you think so. And why would a man not just come into your life and just decide, okay, whatever you do, Kimberly, is fine with me. I will just fall into place. But he's his own man with his own ideas, with his own ways of doing things, with his own ways that he's beginning to think of, okay, I want to tweak this in my own life and in our own family. So you have to make room. If you plan to get married and be happily married, you have to make room for what your partner, what your spouse will bring into the marriage. All right. And so instead of wanting him to only adapt to you, you need to adapt to him. And of course, it'll be good if he will adapt to you as well. So even if he's a novice and you are pro in certain areas, you will find, if you allow it, that he will bring a newness and even wisdom to some of your operations. Like in organizations. So I work in an organization and most of our staff are like maybe like late 20s, over 30. And so we had some interns, not last year before, who were like early 20s. And they brought so much life into the organization and so much new, fresh insight. And every time we have someone join the organization who are totally new, they bring they bring wisdom, they bring their own skills, they bring their own experiences that if we allow them, that they will help the organization to go to another level of efficiency and just being able to influence more people and have a better service product, etc., because they are bringing in something that is new. Similarly, when you get married, you will bring um, wisdom and strategies and systems in the marriage that will be good. And your husband, he will also bring those things, even if he's new to some of these things. All right. So please, from now, control, have some self control, and realize that, you just, and I'll give you some tips at the end. You need to be able to you need to get a grip on your controlling tendencies as a woman. You're not 100, you're not perfect, you don't know everything, and allowing someone else to come into your space. Even when you start to have children, children will also bring some wisdom with themselves as well. So we need to be humble as you enter relationships to know that and to realize that you do not know everything, you do not do everything perfectly, and it is in your best interest to have others give an input and yes, be themselves as well. The second point is avoid being a neat freak or a perfectionist. So most men would appreciate a clean, orderly home. They are definitely into that. Most men. I don't know of any man who just loves an untidy environment. I know a lot of people, and I really do not think I know any men like that. Although up to them, if they're in their own space, it really might look very untidy. But if somebody else could clean for them, they will be very accommodating and appreciative. So you yeah, he desires that kind of orderly home, but it may not be to your level of organizing and cleanliness. And so in our eyes, if he's not at our level, we might be looking down at him and thinking that, oh my goodness, you can do a lot better in how you do things. Um, so of course there are a few exceptions where there are men who are neat freaks and the women and the untidy ones, but in general, it's not necessarily so. So I call a time, and sometimes we don't even know that we are that way. We all have blind spots. So let me share with you how I discovered one of my blind spots. So my mother was invited by one of her longtime friends to her home, and I and my cousin who was living with us at that point in time, he was like maybe like 12, 13 or something like that, 14, maybe 13. And so we went, and my friend's mother, a sweet lady, a person that I really do like. And so she invited us, but throughout the entire stay, she was just quarreling with her grandchildren. With if anybody spilled anything, she will quarrel about it and immediately begin to clean it up. And when I was going on my way home, I was commenting, or probably when I reached home, that it was just exasperating being around her because she just wanted everything perfect, and you had guests. And then when I was in my little apartment and I was being probably dropped off by my mother, my cousin said that I was exactly that same way. So I was like, me? And oh, and I was like so shocked that he put me in the same category as my mother's friend. And as I began to examine what he said and even um you know, think about my own life, I was like, I really am like that. I can be quite a neat freak, just wanting things only my way, not making room for persons when they come because I'm just busy organizing and neatening up. So that was definitely a blind spot in my life, and I'm still a work in progress when it comes to this area. But it at least I'm now I'm self-aware that I can be a perfectionist and really exasperate persons around me because I want things my way, and my way is the best way. Okay. So I'm not saying that you should be messy at all because I like an orderly home. I cannot handle visual noise. So I'm always organizing because I think it helps me to be efficient. Okay. But you need to value the comfort and the freedom of others above your tendency to be a perfectionist. So otherwise, your husband to be might think or feel that he's in a straitjacket, and he's not allowed to be comfortable in his own space. And remember, it is his house as well. And you might be thinking, okay, well, if he joined, I have my own house and he comes to live with me, then it's my house. No, 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 my sisters. According to the word of God, when you get married, you become one. So then your house becomes his house. All right. So a man prefers that you have time for him and the family rather than expending all your energies on cleaning the house. Although I did say it's important to have an orderly house, but when you get married and if you have a full time job and you might have a side hustle like myself, it's difficult to be able to have everything in tip top shape 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, especially if children come into the mix. Forget about that ideal. All right. So, in general, these are some of the things that most men would appreciate. Beside an generally orderly home, but does not necessarily have to be like tip top shape all the time. Okay. So he would appreciate, unless you have a helper, then that might really happen. So he would appreciate your undivided attention when he's sharing his thoughts and heart with you. So if you are preoccupied with only your systems in the house and your systems just in life, and that is more important to you, being efficient and effective, then you may not necessarily have time to hear him out or to listen to him properly because your mind is occupied with everything else that you need to get done. So your future husband would also appreciate if you would have energy for sex. All right. Because you have limited energy. And if you expend all your energy on just having your house in tip top shape, and you are the misorganized one, then it's a very, very high possibility that at the end of the day, you might be so tired that, or in general, you're so tired that you have no capacity to um, be sexually active with your husband. All right. And he would also most likely appreciate a sumptuous meal over a squeaky clean house. So you have limited time. Okay. Especially if you continue to have a thriving career and you are married. At times you have to juggle. Okay. Is it the clean house or is it having good, delicious food in the house? So for me, as of this date, my priority every week is to have clean bathrooms and a clean kitchen. That is my priority. Other things, I like order too. I don't like things all over the place. But my house may be a bit dusty at times, and I have come to realize, okay, Kimberly, you are not superwoman. In the first year and the first 2 years of marriage, oh my goodness, I was like superwoman. And I mean, you're getting older as well, and you realize, okay, there are other needs in a family beside just being Miss Perfect and being misorganized. And also, a wife that is calm and joyful rather than harassed and bothered about the house chores is what a man would appreciate a whole lot more. Okay. And the thing is, I mean, taking care of a house is a lot of work. A lot of work. And if you like me and you like things in a particular way, then you can end up, just being in a bad mood because everybody may not do it. Others may not do it like you. Your husband may not do it like you. So therefore, you end up with a lot more chores. And then you end up getting upset with him or the children because people are not helping as much. Okay. All right. So the third point is if you're getting value, you can give a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. So the third point is avoid being selfish. And in particular, for this point, I have, but in particular, hey Cassie, great message. Oh gosh, thanks. Um, in particular, you're with your space and your belongings. So if you've been living on your own, you're used to having your entire space to yourself. Your bed in particular, most likely, even if you have family you're living with or you're living with other people, your bed and your room most likely is your own. And you could sleep sideways, Diagonally would. I mean, you can sleep however way you wish, and you don't have to share your bed with a soul. All right? And no one is affected. But when you get married, you have to learn to share like every space, every inch of your space. Of course, I mean, if you have several rooms in your house, not necessarily you would have time by yourself in your space, but it depends on where you choose to live when you first get married. Because sometimes people have to live in smaller places in order to save for what they want in the future, etc. Okay. But in general, when you get married, your things become his things and his things become your things. So, for instance, if you bring a washing machine into the marriage, that washing machine now belongs also to your husband. So, I know that our culture proposes that is my things and your things, but according to the word of God, whether you believe it or not, it says that when two marry, they become one. And marriage is not like you two are just living in the same space and you're like roommates and you only come together for sex once in a while. That is not necessarily a marriage. That's a friend with benefits kind of situation. So in marriage, according to Matthew 19:5-6, it says, and said, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. And what God has joined together, let not man separate. So it's a kind of a tricky topic because I know a lot of Christians, married Christians, well, not necessarily my close circle of friends. We probably have similar views, but some persons believe that it's my money and your money. But Shanti Philman and I think this guy Dave Ramsey had a post that I really liked about finances and marriage. Anyhow, Shanti or Shanta, I think it's Shanti. She says, we resist being one in our marriages, and it often comes out in our finances. See, finances, it really shows where our hearts are. Finances. So, people may not agree with me, but you could go into God's word for yourself and talk with other persons who manage their finances as one and persons who do not. And over time, you might realize that there is some level of oneness that is beneficial, that when you share your finances, that it comes about. All right. So open your eyes and see if somebody and see how it affects finances and how couples deal with finances, how it actually does impact the oneness in a marriage. All right. The fourth point is avoid being inflexible. So it can be very taxing on a man to meet a woman who is bent on being too rigid. So a healthy marriage requires a lot of adapting from the beginning until the end. And my thing is, if your husband is not asking you to commit a sin against God, then we all need to be open to change in order for the good of the marriage to take place. Okay? And so you want to consider to be more flexible with your husband. And I pray that you will marry someone who is also flexible so that, yet you are looking out for one another and you're looking out for the best interests of the other person. And if we would lay aside our selfishness and really seek to put the other person first, a lot more marriages will be going well. So here are some ways that marriage requires flexibility. One, you're trying to meet some of his wants and some of his needs, and hopefully he will have that mindset to meet mindset also to meet some of your wants and some of your needs. To embrace him as he changes throughout the marriage, because believe it or not, the man you marry at that point in time, you say I do, will be different 2 years, 5 years, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And you will also be different because all of us are constantly changing. We are changing when we read God's word. We are changing when we listen to our podcast. We are changing when we scroll on social media and something just grips us. We are changing when somebody might give us a negative or positive feedback. We are constantly, all of us are constantly changing little by little, right? And you need to be flexible because he will change and you will change. Also, you need to adjust to some of your expectations about him and yourself and about marriage in general. So when you go into marriage, you might think marriage is this one thing, and then you go into marriage and you realize, oh my goodness, you have a rude awakening because it's much different than when you thought, especially when you are watching, you have had a steady diet of entertainment, which paint marriage and sex in a totally unrealistic light. And then when you get married, you're like, oh my goodness, I did not sign up for this. But as I said, it is good because God created it and it can be a blessing. All right. And the last point I want to make about the flexibility in marriage, marriage requires us to make sacrifices of your time, your desires, your interests for the sake of the family. And I know one of my friends, they had a family life in my country. And I've always quoted her. She says that selfishness is the enemy, or is the greatest enemy of marriage. And that is why a lot of marriages are failing because, for the most part, people just want their own way. People are not willing to budge. People are not willing to change countries for the good of the marriage. And everything is about, what I want and my own needs. And that is so against what Christ stood out for. Christ talks about to be the greatest servant, you need to serve others. I mean, yeah, you need to be able to have that mindset where you want to help be a blessing to someone else. Okay. So the longer you stay single, you inadvertently will develop at least one of the traits that I mentioned. And if anybody has other traits that they want to stick in there, feel free and we could talk about it some more. Okay. So but you need to be self aware even from now and fight against those tendencies. For one, to attract a good man, and two, to keep him until he say I do, and three, after I do, to have a good, lasting, Christ centered marriage. All right. So you cannot always want your own way. So right now, if you know who put the kind of persons who generally might have a little extra difficulty is when you have been an only child or you have been spoiled by your parents, even if you are not an only child. I think those two categories of people might have it a little extra rough because you are so used to have everything being about you and revolving around you that you have become selfish. All right. So you need to fight against that. But I will give you some strategies to fight to help you to overcome. So I was single for quite a while. So one thing that I have learned, which I shared about our marriage class on Sunday, is that when my husband has to cook, so I was coming into the marriage, I was the professional when it comes to cooking, right? As I mentioned, I lived on my own. I learned from my roommates, I learned from my mother, and I'm quite a pro when it comes to cooking in comparison to my husband when he first came into the marriage. But I don't necessarily want to be the one who's cooking all the meals, and he also wanted to grow in this area. So on Sundays, generally, he's the one who cooks. And in the earlies, when I would be in the living room and the kitchen is next to the living room, and I see him at the corner of my eye doing certain things, and I'll be like quick to say, okay, how about if you do this and you don't do that? And so I'm directing him constantly on what he should do, and it is just directing him fully, not fully, as much as I could interject. And I realized it was frustrating him. At some points, he'd be like, well, maybe you should just do it. So now I take myself into the bedroom and I take a little Sunday nap while he cooks so that I don't know what he's doing and he has the freedom to explore and to grow. And he has become quite a good chef. His curry chicken is Good. So, at times, as a woman, if you've been on your own and you really have some good systems of which you're proud, you need to just shut your mouth, or you will find that the majority of the chores will be on you and you may not be happy about it. All right. So, when you get married, you cannot have everything done your way according to your own timing because you are married an entire you are marrying a man, an adult man who does not want to be micromanaged, who does not want to be controlled. All right. And therefore, even from now, you need to begin to start thinking how you can minimize your tendencies to be that way in order for your own enjoyment of being married and your husband's enjoyment of being married to you and being able to live well with you. Okay. All right. So here are my suggestions. Um, if you want to deal with some of these traits that you have been developing as a single woman. One, if you live alone and you are offered the challenge, I would recommend getting a housemate slash roommate. Okay. And believe me, learning to live with others who are not your family members is a good practice for learning flexibility, learning to become less selfish, learning to be less controlling, etc. So in my time as a single woman, I had at least maybe like 16 persons that I lived with, at least. Because I think I remember now while preparing, I also lived for like 3 months with a family, but I don't really count that because it was only for a very short time. But yes, so I had at least 16 different housemates with whom I lived for at least 1 year, and some persons spanned for several years. So having that many roommates or housemates, that changed me and helped me. I remember, oh gosh, quarrels, disagreements, but also laughter. And, different times we had different systems in place. But you had to learn. I had to learn how to get along with different personalities and persons who brought in different experiences. And, if you are open, you would learn things from persons as well. You might learn how to you will learn if you are open to learning instead of just wanting your own way and being frustrated and always being in a bad mood because people are not bending and bowing to your needs and your wants and your desires. Okay. So having roommates, and as I mentioned, who are not your family members is a good thing. Why I'm saying not family members, also live with your family members is good because I think that when you live with your family members, they get used to your bad ways and you get used to their bad ways, and you are not necessarily challenged to grow. But when you live with persons who are not your family members, for the peace of the environment, for the peace um of the living situation, you need to learn to change. You need to change. You just need to be able to deal with some of your bad attitudes, or not necessarily bad attitudes. You just need to just be flexible and know that okay, there's one way of doing things, there's another way of doing things, and maybe we can merge, come up with a better way, or maybe you can just say, okay, I put my way down, my own way down for this situation, and we pick up your way and we do things your way. But when you live with other housemates, it's a game changer in your growth, living to learning to live with people well. All right. So thanks, John. Hey guys, if you like what Akim is saying, please remember to like the live and also, share it with others. And don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter, which I give good advice according to recipients of the newsletter. So the other action point is when you have guests in your home, resist the urge to clean every single minute. Embrace the disorder and enjoy the company. Now I'm still learning this. So when I have people over, my tendency is as soon as people eat, I just clean up, wash the dishes while they're there, instead of me just leaving the dishes until they leave, sit down and just enjoy the company of my parents or my friends or whoever we're having over at that point in time. So I'm getting better and better. Yeah, man, I think I've improved. You're trying to say it again. John, I think I've improved a lot. So, yeah, that's my tendency, just to have everything just looking orderly and neat. And also thinking that when they leave, I want less things to be able to do so I could just relax myself after. But we need to value people over than just doing things over and over again. And you could read the account of Jesus with Matthew and Mary, and I think it's a good reminder to value people above just tasks, just getting things done. Okay. The other thing is intentionally share your space with others. Invite acquaintances, friends, and family over into your place of abode and just entertain. Maybe have people over to spend the night, and just being able to open your home to others. And well, I may not necessarily say no, let me not say that. So, yes, be hospitable, be generous, be kind. And in First Peter 4:9, it says, show hospitality to one another without grumbling. So, yeah, my friends, my mother's friend that I was mentioning, she was just showing hospitality but grumbling at the same time. And I had a tendency, according to my cousin, that yeah, you just need to be able to enjoy people when they're in your space and not just decide to just be a neat freak, a perfectionist at that point in time. All right. So that is it. So the a recap would be avoid being controlling, avoid being a neat freak or a perfectionist, avoid being selfish, and in particular, I mention your space and your belongings, and avoid becoming inflexible. So, anybody else would like to add any other traits that might um, prevent you from having a peaceful, enjoyable home in the future and cause your husband to be stressed beyond belief? Oh, hey Kenny, Lord, when they are gone, I have that to do. No relaxing after. Yeah, it's true, Oh, did I say Matthew? Yeah, I really meant Martha and Mary. People pleaser. Yes, yes. So I just like things in order. So instead of waiting, instead of doing it while persons are there, I'm trying my best to wait until they leave, give them my full attention, and then I can wash the dishes and pack things back. But I like entertaining. I do. But I need to ensure that if I really like entertaining, I care more about the people than the operation. All right. So anybody has any more comments or questions, you can post it in the chat. And thanks, Roxanne. Solid tips came. I live with my family because it's just what makes sense financially. Yes, and of course I could understand that. But I want to say to Roxanne that financially is having getting your getting a living with roommates is also in your best interest financially. And I think that's why I probably had so many roommates, we all wanted to be on our own, but not to have an exorbitant rent to pay. All right. So living with roommates I think is very good. So Cassie says, can I ask an unrelated question? A married person asked me to coffee to discuss professional interests. I'm not comfortable with this concept. How do you handle such things? Well, pray for wisdom, one. And I'm guessing is a married man. And I think, okay, if I were in that situation, I would want to invite another colleague, or I will, yes, a married man, a new pastor trying to set up a church in my city. Yeah, those things are, it's difficult because the thing is, if you go into public with this, and this is a very quick kind of meeting, then if you, if he's really wanting to just discuss it with you alone, but why you alone? I think it'll be good to have someone tag along, or you meet in the church with, if it's in his office with the doors wide open, or you sit down in the pews so that others can see you talking about church business and you talk a little loud so that nobody will, do not sit close to him, and talk a little loud, right? So that no one will even think anything is happening between you two. All right. So, so just now, so Roxanne says we share the same car too, and it's a necessity where I live. So, but I definitely do see the benefits of living with other people rather than one's own family. So think about it, might also be financially good too. So Cassie said, exactly. I think it's inappropriate for a pastor to be asking to see a female for coffee. Yeah, I think so too. Tell that man, Pastor, I don't, I am not available. If you would like us to discuss it, one, we could have a meeting with others. You can write me an email, and I would love to give my opinion, but right now I'm not available for coffee. And I could give my opinion via email so that I have time to think about the points and be able to provide good feedback when you write that, what you want to share with me via email. All right. An email is better. I wouldn't even recommend starting a WhatsApp conversation, because WhatsApp conversations over time with the opposite sex, if the person has any kind of interest in you, could come across, could eventually be very inappropriate and cause emotional attachments and starting off with emotional adultery. So you don't even want that kind of one-on-one thing if you already know that this behavior is very suspicious. Yes. Um, John says, hold up. A married pastor wants to meet up with you. Is it outside of the church grounds? Yes, he wants to go for coffee. I would even recommend saying, I'm willing as long as your wife comes too. So that he will know, he will get the idea one time. I will not be engaging in any possible inappropriate behavior with you. And not only we have to think about ourselves, but we have to think about how what others may also perceive is happening. And I think there's a verse that says, gosh, I remember it, yesterday when I was talking to some young ladies. Oh gosh, you all know the verse that give no opportunity for the enemy. Oh, let not your good be evil spoken of. That's the verse. Yes. Yeah. Kenny says, oh boy, song suspect. I think she meant suspicious, but sus. Yeah, I agree. You're so good at this, Kim. Thank you. Agreed. No to WhatsApp. It would be disrespectful to his wife. Exactly. I don't want my husband to be chatting long with no woman on WhatsApp. I don't, or Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger. No. Somebody could ask a quick question, he could answer and then move on. If anybody want any long advice, I am very well will make myself available to us to have a conversation with all three of us. Coffee, I hope something isn't brewing. My witty husband there. Yes, Jonathan, outside of church grounds. Wife is in another city across the country. Yeah, even worse. Kenny says, shun the very appearance of evil, and this appears very evil. Yes, that's a good verse as well. Cassie says, thanks, Kenny. That's the verse. In another city across country. No, sir. I love this. You see, we as the body of Christ, as collective wisdom will help Cassie in this situation. So thanks for asking that question, Cassie, and thanks for everybody else for giving your 2 cents. And yeah, we have to be very careful. Just because, and I like what you already know that just because a man's a pastor doesn't mean that he doesn't have struggles. He's a man, especially if his wife is another city. He has needs right now, and he probably trying to meet those needs with you. And whoever else gullible might be wanting. So pray for the brother. He's probably having some challenges right now with loneliness. You need to pray for him and pray that no other woman will fall prey, Prey, to him while he's in his very vulnerable state. All right. So Cassie said, thanks for great advice and lots of laughs too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wisdom and counsel of many advisors here, Cassie. And that's what the Bible says. All right. We should never feel that we're alone. We have a body of Christ that is quite humongous in the world right now, and we could really um take solicit advice from others, and not just decide, just feel like you have to figure out everything on your own. No, no, you don't have to figure out life on your own. Alrighty. So thank you all so much. It was good. I'm glad that you all came on and joined this live. And I hope this information is helpful to you. And I'm telling you, as it is for someone who has been single for quite a while, who got married later on in life. So I know um, some of these things that you could develop unknowingly and how it could negatively impact your future marriage. So, word to the wise is sufficient, as they say. All right, everyone, take care. Thanks for coming on. Have a good night. Cassie says it's so helpful. Thanks so much. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure and my joy to share. Kenny says, very. Yes, yes. And I want you all to know I'm trusting God with you for wonderful spouses. Pray those men in. Pray them. Let's pray for them that they will find you and that you can have a Christ centered, enjoyable marriage. All right. Take care, ladies and gents. Have a good night. Bye bye.